Hi, I'm Daniel Arancibia. I'm the Regional Director for Latin America at ProForest. And today we will be speaking with Fabiola Zerbini, who is the Regional Director for Latin America at the Tropical Forest Alliance. This interview will be part of the Soy Toolkit interview series, and we will explore a little bit more about the work that Fabiola and TFA are doing in the region and how it impacts the soy supply chain. This interview takes place over Zoom with Fabiola in Brazil and myself here in Colombia. As we are using Zoom, please bear with us if should we experience any inconvenience in the sound. Fabiola, hi. We would like to start, just hearing from you about you and your work at TFA. A brief introduction.
Thank you so much. My pleasure to be here, Daniel. Well, I am the Regional Director of TFA here for Latin America. I've been working since 2016 with TFA, almost 4 years. Soy is a key commodity for the region. So we do have a strong focus and a lot of efforts oriented to first build sector-wide agreements involving since the demand side to the producers. So really bringing the vertical supply chain dialogues and agreements. And second, work on the landscape on a jurisdictional level with the two key jurisdictions prioritized here in Brazil, Maranhão and Mato Grosso, to really help to foster the agenda also in a more cross-sectorial perspective.
Perfect. Thanks, Fabiola. We will be speaking with you then in the next minutes about your experience, your learnings, and also the recommendations on how working with partners, as part of a collective, can accelerate progress towards deforestation goals that are included in supply chain commitments, and how those commitments regarding deforestation are happening right now on the soy supply chain. As you know, soy as a commodity is maybe one of the most known because of its expansion, being a global crop, and also because of the concerns regarding its production, where it's produced, how it's produced, and what is the impact of deforestation, the impacts associated with soy production, not only on deforestation, but also regarding social issues like labor rights and maybe the introduction of soy in pristine or unique landscape that could be in peril. Given this context, ProForest, with the support of partners like WWF, the World Wildlife Fund, and GEF, the Global Environmental Facility, have developed the Soy Toolkit. The Soy Toolkit is a one-stop shop that will support companies doing responsible sourcing of soy. This is primarily an online capacity development tool that puts together all the resources that are available in the region and in the world regarding soy, tools that companies can implement to make their commitments come true by mapping their supply chain, identifying risk, and reacting to those risks. So with this in mind, we would love to hear about how TFA is working right now with companies to reduce tropical deforestation associated with the sourcing of commodities, and especially soy.
Thank you, Daniel. Yeah, I think that I can summarize in three main fronts or fields of action. One is work together with the GTC, which is the local group formed by NGOs and traders and also the government to really build and design together an agreement for Cerrado. And it was also done supported by the ACOS group, so the demand side, the statement of support for the Cerrado Manifest group, formed by many companies in Europe and also investors. So we've been working with them to really move forward in a development of a financial mechanism that could bring a compensation to the producers that decide to not deforest, also the portion of they are allowed to deforest. So this is key. we really need and to find collective ways to guarantee that the deforestation will not be the production or the expansion of the production will happens in areas that are already opened or that will happen without deforestation. Even the legal portion that the Brazilian Forest Code allows producers or private areas to deforest. So it needs to be addressed collectively. So the Cerrado Manifest is one example. But we also work with the companies, the Soy Action Coalition. It was very recently created as a part of the Coalition for Action, Consumers Goods Forum companies commitment. And we are helping them to design and to implement a soy roadmap to guarantee that also they can do things by themselves individually, but they can also do things together. So help on the individual side through this process like the Soy Action Coalition, help the collective side through this process like the Cerrado Manifest or other areas that we can do or biomas that you can work together. And the third is the incentives side. So the finance mechanism is key. The expansion in open areas or even the compensation demands resources, demands mechanisms. So we are also working with these partners to develop and to implement and to attract resources to the jurisdictions and to the producers and the actors of the supply chain that decides to make these commitments, to foster, stimulate, and support them on the implementation of the commitments. So I think that help collective commitments, but also support the implementation through financial mechanisms and new resources to the chain.
I think a very important point that you just mentioned there, Fabiola, is about collective action. And I think one of the areas that we would love for you to explain more is what opportunities do you see in the last year with the development of these jurisdictional or landscape approaches that also try to take the view that isolated action by companies is not is not good enough, but actually trying to look at the bigger landscape. So what do you think that these new landscape or jurisdictional approaches mean for the sector?
Yeah, I think that Mato Grosso is a good example of that. If you do have a target, okay, let's reduce the deforestation or let's reduce the emissions. If a territory has a target like that, you really need to have the sectors working together to guarantee that this target will be accomplished. And the sectors working together means that they need a place to dialogue, a place to listen to each other, and a place to really co-design new solutions. So how to better work together among cattle and soy or even other kind of supply chains. The other level of interaction that it's very well potentialized by the jurisdictional approach is the public and private. So the same place where you can find your colleague from another sector that can work together with you to move on in a landscape agenda, you can find the government to guarantee that some legal law incentives could be added to a private resources or a private mechanism, financial mechanism. And only because of this combination, the new way to produce is now possible or is there possible for that landscape. And Mato Grosso is a very good example on that, but we do have also the same model being followed by many other subnational governments, different stages. But all of them understanding now that if you could bring the companies and if you could bring the civil society and the producers in one table, it will be better for everybody. I still think that we need to work a lot with the companies, mostly to really guarantee that the change from a more supply approach to a jurisdictional approach could be really internalized as part of their own procedures and policies. I think that we are still not there. Some companies are there, but not all of, even in the soy. But if we do have a sector that is closer to this new way to new behavior, a new way to work, is the soy one. So I do believe that there's a frontier to be crossed now by the sector, and it's part of also TFA work as well, Proforest as well, many other organizations, but TFA work is guaranteed that the how will be understood, experimented, and then internalize it as a policy, as a new procedure and new behavior of the companies.
And I think something interesting is that these spaces or these initiatives allow also for a lot of exchanging, right? You know, it catalyzes a lot of knowledge exchange that the actors can learn from. Now, I think with landscape or jurisdictional approaches, a lot of that is focused on the people that are closer to the ground, the companies working, producing, and the governments managing those territories. What do you think, or in your experience at TFA, what can be learned by the retailers and food manufacturers about what is going on the ground, you know, and how they can learn from those initiatives that you just mentioned to start implementing and enhancing their own responsible sourcing commitments?
Yeah. Well, everything is interconnected, no? In some way. If you are a company that if you do have your supply chain concentrated in one territory, you in some way are responsible, no? Also for the way that the economic model of that territory, or in some way how that territory will be developed and also managed, no, by the government, and vice versa, no. A local government has a certain level of responsibility in really guarantee that the stakeholders that are there, no, buying or selling, no, producing or purchasing, that they will have the better conditions to do that. Mostly guaranteeing the sustainability and guaranteeing the. So I think that it's a really double hand responsibility. And if you do have a place to think together and how it can be done better together, it's quite amazing. I will give you an example. We are now working with the PCI committee, the Produce, Conserve and Include program in Mato Grosso, jurisdictional program, to build an investment plan to really guarantee that the targets that were announced as part of the PCI will be accomplished. And the investment plan needs to be built. And if you do have the soy sector together with the cattle, together with the other key economic drivers of the state working together, we will really have different models and different better information and knowledge to really attract new resources and attract different partners to work together with that state to guarantee that it will happen. So I think it's we are now in a time of where we cannot solve complex problems with only one solution, no, or simple solutions. We need more complex solutions, and it demands some willingness to work together, but more than this space, like the jurisdictional one, to really guarantee that you look beyond yourself, you're beyond your supply chain, beyond your own your own relationships. Needs to be done in a more collective way, in a horizontal way. I think this is the new model. Again, we are still experimenting this new model, but I really believe that there's no way back. You know, like it's the future, and as soon as we learn how to make it better, better for the sustainability agenda, better for the land use, planning processes better for the citizenships and everybody.
And this is something that TFA, talks a lot about a forest positive future and a forest positive agenda. So I think one element or one actor that is super important there is the financial sector. So what would be for you those specific solutions that you think the financial sector can take on to enable and support that the commodities are produced thinking on a forest positive future?
Yeah, I think the finance sector is crucial, and they are the ones who maybe are the last ones who started to really work. So I think that we need them, and we need them as fast as possible, really partnering and really working together. And it requires, and this is the first idea about that. No, it requires also for the finance sector that they need to think a little bit out of their own boxes. They need to be and to assume different risks, and they need to in some way understand that they do have a responsibility and a role to play to promote a sustainable, a balanced climate agenda for the world. From this, having a finance sector more involved and engaged, and assuming some risk, because we are also talking about risk here, then the way that they can be engaged are at least two, or can be summarized in two. One is really assuming that they do need to have very rigorous rules to take decisions about their investments. So it's a very powerful driver if an investor says, look, you need to show to me and to guarantee that the supply chain that I am investing to develop will not deforest. And the company that is receiving the investment will need to put a very or to implement a new way or a procedure, like the one that exactly this toolkit is oriented to support, to guarantee to that investor that, yeah, I'm not, so your money, it's not contributing to deforestation. This is one piece. The other is the more positive, or like the how to contribute with resources, but also with new mechanisms that can make the transition possible. Because we are still talking about a transition. Now, the sustainability is still something that for some companies, soy less, but is still on soy. Some producers are still far from the sustainability as a current practice, So the transition demands resources to like recovering degraded areas. The transition demands resources for technical assistance, resources to compensate that producers who decide to not deforest the portion that they could deforest, because they are allowed to do that by the forest law or the forest code here in Brazil, or even in other country, the legislation of that country. So the finance sector can bring money, or can bring intelligence, know-how, knowledge, to build together with also the companies who had some resources, or the governments, the donors, or the international cooperation, to really guarantee that we will have good enough mechanisms in place to build the transition. To really. So I think these are two. But again, it's an issue, it's an engagement. One of the most important players that really needs to be closer and working together with all of us to make it happen.
And the idea of the Soy Toolkit is actually to provide a free online resource that showcase, let's say, all the initiatives that are happening within the soy sector, and showing how companies can learn and use the tools that are there to implement their commitments. So the idea of the Soy Toolkit is somehow to help us a clearinghouse of what is going on around the world, learn from it, and use it what is most useful to your particular situation. So how relevant do you think in the region for TFA in Latin America is this for the companies that are producing soy right now, and how it can help them to implement their commitments on soy?
Yeah, as I mentioned before, no, we are still talking about a new way to produce, a new way to monitor the supply chain, to connect with your own supply chain. So knowledge is still key, and there's no better way to learn something new, if not learn with the ones who are doing. So I think this kind of exchange, this kind of guides, that help the companies, and not only the companies who are the leaders, because we do have the big ones who are in some way or more committed, but also they are 5 or 10 steps in front. We do have others who tier 2 or tier 3, which that really needs and requires new knowledge and guidance to really go and to make this transition in their own supply chain. So I do believe that this kind of knowledge it's very important to guarantee that the companies who are committed will really accomplish and put this into practice. And this is exactly what we need now. We need practical clues, tools. We need, and we do have this knowledge. Now, this is the beautiful in soy. We have a lot of companies who advanced a lot. We have a lot of civil society organizations, consultancies that advanced a lot. So let's organize this and let's give it to the ones who needs to learn more to how to do. But I think it's very important, very relevant, and also for all companies, not only the leaders, not only the ones who are leading the process, but all the sector.
Thank you, and that's exactly how do we see that the Soy Toolkit can help companies, move the sustainability ladder. Let's say, how do they move forward? It's by learning, by working together, by achieving collective action, and follow along most of what you just said about the TFA agenda for soy in the region. Finally, from your experience in the region, in soy, what do you think are the biggest challenges for the producing companies where, the Soy Toolkit could help, seeing what is around and how it can be adapted, used, or learned from for them? What do you think are the main challenges for soy producers right now?
I think that we are still talking about how to make the transition as less costly and as shared as possible. So we are, I think the biggest challenge is how to work together in a sector perspective, but also in the jurisdictional perspective. So individually, for sure that it's very useful to have tools and knowledge systematized for individual action. But I think that the front that we really need to work to guarantee that we will help companies to understand and see the value is the collective ones. So I think we do have a lot of good examples on soy, but we need to do more. And this is exactly, I think, what we are talking about here. It's a combination between knowledge, willingness, and some level of acceptance that a new way to make business is demanded and required to guarantee that we will feed the world, and we will have the climate conditions and the environmental conditions to keep feeding the world and to keep living, as a society. So I think these three components, and all of them can be really in some way fostered, or stimulated by process like this, that use it in so this kind of toolkits being used in the dialogues and in the meetings on jurisdictions or in sector-wide agreements, discussions. So it's a good combination between both. So this is also a good combination between TFA and the Soy Toolkit. How can we use this to leverage the quality and the results of the collective process that we help to catalyze?
Thank you, Fabiola. It's really interesting to hear about, to hear from you and to hear about the work that TFA is doing in the region to prevent and actually move companies towards halting tropical deforestation associated with commodities production, in this case, soy. I'm sure that your insights and your words will be, very useful for companies as they strive to strengthen their own supply chains. Just a reminder, as part of the Soy Toolkit, we offer free of charge training for sourcing, procurement, and sustainability teams of companies that want to strengthen their sustainability commitments. If anybody's interested on this free of charge training, please send us an email at soytoolkit@proforest.net, and we will be in touch with you. And with that, Fabiola, again, thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for sharing with us today.